Hey guys, what's going on? It's the Wolf. I am back by popular demand. Because some people say I am demand, but not the man. So there's a difference there. All right, so I'm just rolling hot with this recording. I had said yes, seven was the um, last one, but a couple of video comments and then a couple of thoughts. And as I try to go back in my mind to when I first started this and all of the things that I've experienced since then, this came up. And it's so obvious to me, but once again, these videos aren't for, I mean, it's a good recap for me as well, but I breathe this now. It's my everyday. I don't know really how to even go back into the public. So after all these years of many people asking me, friends, family, and whoever else, um, they're like, well, what is this? What is this? What is this? I'm like, oh, that's this. I forget that most people have never, ever lived in the private. So they don't know what the world is. They don't know what, once you delve into this world, you're like Neo being pulled out of the Matrix for the first time. And so my brain sometimes glazes over, glizzy, whatever, um, certain things until like they pop up and it's something. So in one of the consultations that I did, and whoa, I'm not back off vacation just yet. But yes, I have done one or two custom consults during the vacation time. And one of the things that came up was the term sovereign citizen. And I absolutely positively hate that. I avoid it like the CVD 19. But it did get me to think that if I'm going to introduce you to this world, and a lot of you guys already have heard the term or know the term, but once again, this is, and I appreciate so many of you guys who've already learned a lot from me, um, watching through the videos for good recaps, um, and that is awesome. All right, but this is, and I'm not saying don't watch the videos or recap. But I have to try to remember if I was brand new and I never knew any of this. Now I'm learning all about that there's a separate world going on right here in the United States versus the United States of America, two separate things. America's considered private. The U.S. corporation under what was it, 26 U.S.C. 3002 or UCC 9-07 letter H location of the debtor, the United States corporation is in fact a public entity. And that public entity, though it shares the same geographical area, are two separate things, and it is called the public. Their membership is so big with so many people in it that they call their people the public or U.S. citizens under the 14th Amendment. That is different and separate than private state citizens. And when we say state citizens, we mean you're citizens of the organic state. Like Florida would be Floridians, New York would be New Yorkers. But also in the same that same geographical area known as New York, there's New York State and then there's State of New York. Two separate things. New York State, private, New Yorkers. State of New York, of meaning you're not getting the real thing, you're getting a variation, a fraction of the real thing, is in fact the corporate, 14th Amendment, U.S. citizen, and the public. So they're doing business, though they're not intrinsically American, they're in our family and they're doing business over the same geographical area. And if you claim to be a U.S. citizen, you're plugging into the state of New York. If you claim to be a state citizen, then you're plugging into the republic. Okay, so we covered all that. We covered the birth certificate. So as I kind of already just led on, this particular video is about the sovereign citizen. I'm gonna go all the way in depth on this one. Um, it may not be a big wow video. I will throw in a couple things that have been talked about in other videos. At the end, I may mix it up a little bit. The reason why I think it's important that you guys know the full history of the sovereign citizen is, and It's because even though this is kind of a small thing, it's a big thing. Because as you enter into this private world, you're going to have people, agents mostly, and law enforcement who are going to call you and try to demonize you for what you're doing, and they're going to refer to you by the certain terms. So we should really cover all of the terms, what they truly mean, and what you can expect. Because this is one of their tools of torture. All right. So once again, I don't usually have anything planned or script, so I just kind of go by what the old, you know, melon ball has in store. But because this is titled The Sovereign Citizen and what it is, so the term sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. What do they mean? Where did it come from? And let's have a legal breakdown of it. So the Constitution and various older documents before the U.S. corporation refer to as we state citizens as sovereigns in times. And why would they do that? Because we are sovereign. Sovereign means king or queen. It means you don't answer to anybody. You know how to govern yourself. You're not out there on some bullshit. So a sovereign is not really a bad word, but also in some of those manuals, it refers to the citizens being sovereign, but the words together are not compound. They are not a term. You're not going to find anything anywhere that defines sovereign citizen, and I will explain why. So, when the federal system, the corporation finally came around, and these people started doing their, you can now declare yourself to be a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, like one of us federal employees or employees of the state, a public person, a trustee, a public officer. Well, when that was created, that was a different class of persons. They're often referred to as actors. Now, the states, they wanted to be sovereign, but the government said, oh, no, hell no. Oh, no, hell no. And they said, we ain't allowing to that. Matter of fact, once you join, you can never unjoin. And um, we'll let you do what you're doing, but we always have say so in case you guys try to do some snaky shit. Now, why would the government say that? Why would they put them in that position? Because the government wanted to regulate how many states were being formed inside of our family. They also knew that the states and these lower municipalities and lower inferior law enforcement agencies would be doing some snaky shit to take away your rights. And the government said, no matter what you do, if you join, if we admit you, you're in. And we can pull the plug on anything you're doing. You're in our territory. They all said, sure, begrudgingly, but they did. Some quicker than others, but they all fell in line. Government's got that kind of power. Go gov. And they said, well, what if we want to do this and this and this to our own people? They said, yeah, you can govern your own people. You're just gonna have to set up a whole, distinct classification for them and leave the state citizens with, or, the nationals, the natives, the sovereigns alone. They said, okay, USA. And guess what happened? They created their own class under the 14th Amendment and called them 14th Amendment U.S. citizens, meaning slaves, property, employees of theirs. The government said, yeah, okay, you can do that. Yeah, because you're still underneath our jurisdiction. What the government didn't foresee or didn't know or didn't care about was the fact that they were going to those public persons were going to then try to rope in the average U.S. or almost messed up, the average state citizen and national into their little guild and membership. Government at some point in time said, "Oh, you dirtbag some bitches." Well, this is why we set it up in case you guys did try to do some snaky shit like this. But still yet, you're under our control, and well, then that makes the average national even more so under our control. Huh. Well, I'll be damned. All right, carry on. And then certain other programs and things popped up, and the government said, whoa, 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 whoa. If you're going to do that, you might need some money for that. And then the state said, yeah, so we should then what? Kick you back some money? Government said, yes. So they have numerous programs where it's reciprocal. Okay. So people in the old days, and it was white and old black dudes primarily, not just, there was females in it as well, but primarily the ones that I ever ran into or read about were mostly male. Not that that truly matters. Um, those are a lot of my mentors. And a lot of them would come up and be like, in the old days, they started saying, wait a minute, what the government's doing here, I mean, and everybody was really thinking, the government was allowing things to happen because the government set up an agreement with everybody that if you're a member of ours, we allow certain things to happen as long as they're not illegal. So there's nothing illegal about creating your own PMA. The states, on the other hand, were like, yeah, buddy, rolling like a big shot. Stay tuned up like a NASCAR pit stop. Come on in, nationals and state citizens and non-residents. The water's fine. Can't stop. Won't stop. Bad boy. So when some of these old dudes back in the day started realizing this is what was going on back in the 20s and 30s, and so forth, and moving forward, they were like, we need to fight this. But there was no internet, there was no phone system and billboards and all that kind of stuff. So they would fight them individually. And some of the good people in the cities and towns, they knew what was going on too. And they're like, whoa, we don't need your permission. And the county and town say, well, yeah, you do. You're doing this. And some of the people knew the difference between legal and lawful and fought them and won. Some of them didn't know what it was. Some people went reluctantly because you might have the master title to your land patent, which hold on, I got mine right here. It's not an original, it's a certified copy, but same as power. And all of a sudden it would get lost or burned in the fire. And then you'd be like, well, I want to sell my land to so and so. And they say, well, if you're going to make it legal, because they didn't know how to get another land patent from the government at the time. They say, well, you don't need the government. We got something a little cheaper, damn near free. Won't cost you nothing but your soul. What? What? No, I mutter sometimes. But then the county or the township or whatever that incorporated, which is why you see some towns that say unincorporated, they were like, well, we got here on portrait scaped paper, we can create you a certificate of that land patent. It's called a certificate of title. That's all you need. It's all legal like. Go ahead and use it. The water's fine. Mm. Because they knew once you started using the non-original title, which by the way, you have the ability, even right now, over all the stuff that you own, to remove it from there or to create your own private title. And it is, in fact, the superior title because it's authenticated by you making it private and getting it notarized. That means it's in America. And understand when I say get it notarized, that can be just your thumbprint, that can be some witnesses. You can use the notary at the bank, but there's two types. There's a notary public and then there's a public notary. All right. And I always get these confused too. So don't quote me on this part, but the names are the same things but reversed. So a public notary, I believe, is the one at the bank, and that is for the public side. The notary public is the one that are hard to find that are based in America. Okay, so they are the American way of doing a proper private um, notarization for truly private documents. Both will work, but if your claim is that you're completely out, that's the one you really should use, though they're really hard to find. And they not so they're expensive, but generally they're gonna charge you a little bit. Okay. So when all that happened, that person then brought their house into their system, and they said, "Well, now that you're registered, you registered your property to us. There's a small fee." People are like, "Okay, well, that's for the service and whatever. Okay, cool. You guys come and take care of my stuff, and on the edge of the property, whatever." Well, then that turned into property tax fee, and then that turned into, if you're like me, $6,100 when it shouldn't be any more than about 45. In a system where, even though they have ongoing costs, after all these years, they should have a surplus of money. So where's all the money going? Who's auditing them? Nobody. They audit themselves. The board members on top are the ones where all the money is going. The streets and all these things are already been paid, and they barely fill the potholes. Most of the infrastructure is already there. So where is all the money going? You added on 50% to my taxes because you felt like it. Because other places in the corporate world, in the United States corporation around our nation, are like, well, this should be more expensive now. It's all orchestrated to bleed out. They've been noticing people have been saving their money again. So now let's drain the swamps a little bit. Let's drain the money out of the people. It's all orchestrated, good people. Like I said, if you really want to know what's going on, check me out on my other YouTube channel, which is Badwolf Unrestricted. We go into all kinds of different details over there. I'm just building that channel out, and I really could use your help over there, sincerely. Um, and thank you in advance for those people. There should be a link at the bottom or at the end of this video, which you can click on and subscribe over there. It takes you 3 seconds, means the world to me. If you guys value the truth and if you guys value this knowledge and different perspectives from somebody who's lived and been inside of these systems and these fraternities, these groups, organizations, I've run with, government agents, military people, people with certain classifications, Masons, Illuminati, mafia people, all kind of shit. You guys never even, some of which you never even heard of. All right. So if you guys want to know some of this information that, you know, a lot of it, they're like, yeah, you can tell that. Just don't say where it's from or this, that, and the other. Support me here, and I'm going to bring you guys, like I said, some good ass information, because not all ass is the same. All right. And remember, this ain't for kids. So don't bring your kids. So now that you know that part of the scheme, all right, let's get back and digress into the word sovereign citizen. So the word sovereign and citizen, they never codified that two-word phrase term into anything legal or lawful. Everybody in the old days understood that it just meant you are a state citizen and that you were sovereign. You are your own king of your castle. You own your land, whatever is yours, lock, stock, and barrel. Well, when they came through and overlaid their invisible jurisdiction that you could plug into optionally, they tried to basically guerrilla pimp or market those benefits and privileges to the people so that an old widow, and this has happened countless times, whose husband paid off the farm, they're like, well, Miss Johnson, Widow Johnson, um, you should pay your fair share of the property tax. She's like, I don't have any money. My house is paid off. My land's paid off. I got a land patent. My husband did all that. Don't bother me. And they're like, well, this and that. So they try to take her property. They try to guerrilla pimp her. And most of the time, the farmers around there, the good old boys would come along there and let's just say they would get busy with those 14th Amendment public trustees trying to take her land when it's hers by American power, right. So eventually, a lot of the good old boys, the system came for them too in the form of, well, if you're going to be compliant, if here are some better seeds. But if you take these better seeds that grow in that shitty dirt, because remember, there's a difference between soil and dirt. Most of your food is grown in dirt, not soil. Soil's 1,000 times better, makes the vegetables and the taste of them pop, and puts a lot of the minerals, nutrients, and trace elements in there. Dirt does not. Dirt is that shit on your front yard that only grows good for grass and weeds, even though dandelions and some of the other ones are actually very beneficial to you, but we'll leave that alone for now. That's for the Badwolf Unrestricted channel. So, with all this going on, they started going after the farmers and the widows and anybody that they could try to rope in until finally they almost everywhere, unless you're in an unincorporated county or you know how to make your shit back into unincorporated, which they don't like. Some videos and theory on that on jameslovett.com in the videos theory. Um, they eventually coerced everybody to that when the house was then sold, the property was then sold, and most people lost their land pad. And well, guess what they did? They went and got a certificate of that title. They went and formed their thing. They started then they started licensing agents to be able to sell the property for you. That became commercial. Your property became commercial. All right. So you're seeing how the buildup, they encroached on everything and made everything from the private side into the public side. And then they could ticket, tax, tow, and take away all that stuff the moment you owe them 45 cents. This is the great American hijack, people. You have no idea how important and serious this is and what's really going on. It's essentially the corporate takeover. Instead of going in and bombing a whole country, you sneak in the back door and you try to corporatize the land and everything on it. You've effectively taken over the nation without firing one shot. Then you put all kind of crap in the underarm deodorant, the aluminum, the parabens, sucralose, and all these other long ass name chemicals that are horrible for your body and even more horrible in their cross contamination within your body. Educationally speaking, do your own research. These are just my theories. I'm sure there's nothing to them. Now, once again, just digressing. So, when these people, like the long time ago versions of me, these old, especially the white guys, are coming for your land, sitting on their corner houses. Kind of weird because I live on the corner house now. Um, they were trying to fight for our rights. They were trying to wake us up so that we knew this is what was going on, but some of them didn't know how to articulate it. And they were holding out. They were these lighthouses, but they didn't know how to break the information down the way I'm telling you guys right now. They didn't know the internet was coming. And if the powers that be, the evil cabal out there, would have known that their precious little internet was going to be used like this, they wouldn't have done it. Matter of fact, um, I believe Al Gore, who's not the creator of the internet, but he did sit in while it was in its infancy. It already existed. He was how to develop it and push it forward. I believe he was quoted as saying something along the lines that if they would have known that the internet would have been used the way it is now, that either they would have charged for it or they wouldn't have let us have such broad access. Imagine that. Never underestimate the greed of the next man. Bad Wolf. I came up with that one. So, when these people tried to fight back, the system, along with certain, we'll just say, clandestine organizations within the government, almost like a pussy wound, it infects the rest of the organism. So a lot of these little clandestine groups that are being puppeteered or muppeted by these pussy wounds of clandestine non-American types with their non-American agendas. who allow for these poisons and toxins and whatever else to be put into things and let these rich people get away with things in the systems and whatever else. They were sitting around and they're like, well, we have to stamp out all these old geezers, but for the most part, no one's really listening to them. But we should have something in place so that we can do a psyop on them, a psychological operation. What should we do? So they said, well, they want to call themselves these citizens that think that they're sovereign. So let's call them that. Most people aren't going to read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights to know their actual rights. So let's use that against them. And plus, most of them are now operating as U.S. citizens. So they've waived their rights. So let's pit citizen against citizen. That way we don't have to look like the bad guys. All we have to do is mutter that's what they are, and then the casual folk out there will run with it with their little cheese that we gave them, laced with poison, and they don't even realize it. They'll do our work for them. They're all stupid. I wonder if there's any truth to that. So then they came up with certain phrases like using the very word against them, just like the N word. The N word came from the word Niger, because that's a primary spot where a lot of slaves were taken. So they were Nigers, Nigerians, Nigers. All right. And for those people who don't know, the ancient name for Africa wasn't Africa. I don't even know why the African people there are using it. That was a colonial slash Egyptian word that came along later. It's actually Necropan. Necropan is the ancient name of necro meaning black, okay, pan earth. So it was black earth because back in the old days, that was one of the best places where you could grow fruits and vegetables and all that kind of stuff until, the catastrophe of the upheavals. But, we'll leave that alone. So they said, well, let's just use their own word against them, kind of like right now. They use the N word against us. So I try not to ever even use the N word. That word is so played out, and it is a moniker of essentially that they've turned, which was beautiful, into something destructive. So they took the word sovereign and citizen, made it into an unofficial term, same version as the N word, and they went around and some of these upper agencies and police agencies communicated with some of the three-letter agencies, these clandestine ones with the dirt, they talked back and forth. Yeah, 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 let's call them that, let's call them that. So if you go out doing certain things that they don't like, they like to refer to you as a sovereign citizen, which is funny because it's actually, though unofficial, it's not an official term. That is the correct word to call term, compound word, to call somebody who is private. I don't push that on my channels. I don't like it. I don't want to use their N words, okay? Or the S word in this case. Once again, sovereign means king, citizen means city slave or property of the city. Product. You can't be both. You can't be a sovereign and a citizen at the same time. You cannot be a public and a private at the same time. You can only be one or the other. But because they wanted to demonize any citizen of theirs now on the public side who's trying to be private, even if you're trying to do it right, that's what they like to label you. They're not legally right, but they're not fully wrong by calling somebody who's against the government, which is not me or my channel or any of my good people, anybody who is against America, they, or against them more so specifically, and you want to be free of them, you're trying to get out from underneath their jurisdiction, which the government says you absolutely have the right to do. Those people, general law enforcement, judges, and some lawyers, and some anti-American people, even if they don't even know that they're anti-American, generally want to label people the sovereign citizen. It is their version of the N word. But when you look it up legally in all books, there is not one page where the law turned that into, and the legislation have never turned that anywhere into an actual codified word, compound word, term. So They can never prosecute you as that because it does not exist. The law has not accepted that. And if they were to accept, the law's like, all right, we're going to adopt the word. I'm going to give me my gavel here. Hold on. We're going to codify the word sovereign citizen. Well, before we do that, we have to talk to the legal department. Why? Well, that has to be properly defined. Uh, fine. Let's just call it citizens who don't like us and the government, and they don't want to obey the laws of the state, even though we're a corporation. And yeah, sure, there's the Constitution that they have the right to be under instead of us, but leave that alone. Um, yeah, and they're stupid heads. So we can prosecute them when they try to do stuff that's private if it's not perfect. And they're like, nah, 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 no, no, because see, if we do that, then that means we have to say that sovereign citizens are our property. If they create a new class of citizen, the law hasn't given us that power. The people haven't given us that power. And then that would kind of being that kind of like us going after a specific class of people, and well, that's against the federal law that's already been written, so we can't really do that. And if we were to try to sneak it by and kind of use it more so publicly, um, we could be sued for it because it's defamation of character. And then once again, we'd have to say that we own them like we own U.S. citizens. And if we own them, then how can we demonize a whole class of people that we own? Um, we can't call them foreign, and we don't want to call them by, foreign nationals or non-residents. So they're just really stupid. Just get out of here. So that's the problem. They can use it against you to your face, police officers. Oh yeah, we got one of those sovereign citizens. Yeah, got one of these plates on it. And don't get me wrong, there are people who are doing things wrong out there, and the cops go for them. But when you do everything right, you're good, unless they overstep the law because they don't understand what the law is and that you and what you've done is lawful. Now, of course, they're starting to learn because they watch my videos and whatever else. But we had these rights ever since before the driver's license, the city lot and block um, program of property taxes, all that. We had those rights before then. When did we lose them? We didn't lose them just because the states came along and started offering benefits and privileges. You could get married before the state created that benefit and program. All those things existed before then. That would be like a gang down the street being like, hey, we can give you protection from anybody who might bother you for 10% of what you guys make a month. And you're like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. Well, you know what? You already had the police there. And guess what? Oh, you know what? You already had the right to bear arms. So you don't need them. But now you want to leave the gang. The gang's like, what? Yeah, no. No, 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 no. You're going to keep paying us, or you're going to need somebody to protect you from us. It's essentially what they're doing. And that's a federal offense, no matter how you look at that. So the term sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, but if you're going to start to learn about how to live in the private, you're going to have to deal with that. How does one deal with that? Number one, make sure that when you're doing your process, whether it's your house or your this or your that or your kids being born at the hospital, I mean, I would lean towards a birthing clinic, but do what you do, or else know how to handle yourself properly at the hospital, what to get, what not to get, etc. I have other videos on that. I also do consultations on that. Um, Make sure you're doing a good process. Make sure you're doing it in full and right. Make sure every step is covered. I'm going to tell you right now, when I first started this channel, I didn't have all of it right. I was out there. I got arrested. I had multiple warrants until I got them squashed and thrown out and all other stuff. by using the law, but they taught me how to do it the right way by penalizing me. Nobody else was out there doing it and showing it. Jackie Fig, God rest her soul, she got bothered and she had tickets, but they weren't like arresting her, this old white lady. She's her videos on my blackside32.com. Go all halfway down, you'll see a white lady with red hair, Jackie Fig. She's the inspiration I got to even do this. And then I was the one with who watched Colonel Von Wilson's info read it on his site and then combined the passport with right to travel, something to protect me even more. That wasn't a thing. A lot of the things that people are now using, I came up with because I lived this life. I'm not like some of these other guys where they're just copying other videos and just, they don't live this life. If you don't hear somebody on YouTube, and you have to be careful about this, talking about that they actually went through some shit in this and had to fight, they're probably a scammer or fake. Or if you do hear somebody out there who went through some stuff and they mysteriously get out of jail when their other friends are locked up still or whatever else, they might be an agent to lead you astray. You think all these groups are just what, not created by agents or board members or elite groups paying people to do that? If you don't know, you know now, and if you don't believe it, well then you're gonna find there's a lot of deep holes in this game right here because it goes real deep. I haven't been down most of them. Should I even talked about on here? Should I can't even talk about on here? Believe that. So they started to demonize the word and try to prosecute people. But when they try to prosecute people, what they do is they prosecute you as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen who did not obey their rules and regulations because you identified yourself through your driver's license, state ID, registrations, and whatever else, birth certificate, as being a member of theirs. That's why, really, most of the time, judges, though they won't admit it, if you can get them to admit it, it's great. Try to tell them, well, what kind of law am I being processed under? I have the right to know so that I can defend. Is this civil or common law or maritime, admiralty? What is it? And they might say, oh, if you ever hear them say the word quasi anything, oh, it's quasi civil, quasi criminal, quasi means it's a tiny infraction. So it's not the whole of the law that was an actual law that was broken. It's a sub piece of an original whole piece. You didn't break the whole law. You damaged a piece of it that they're going to then regulate as a member of theirs. Because the government said they could do that to people who are willing. Doesn't mean you can break one of their laws and then just be like, oh, it's quasi, I'm out. That's not how it works. It's good that you know that. That's only one piece of trying to fight. It's not going to win you the case. If you want to even start to learn how to win your own cases, jmclovett.com. Go through the courses there, watch the videos. If you're going to take this seriously. If not, that's up to you. I mean, because a lot of people, if they don't, then they end up just doing a consultation with me anyway. So one way or another, if how much are you willing to pay for your freedom? But at the same time, don't let people overtax you for anything in general or stupid shit or shit that they're not even talking about that they do. They're not showing you proof or any of that stuff. So, so they started to demonize the citizen who is sovereign, the good ones and the bad ones. But here's the thing, the bad ones, they go and do their time. The good ones sue them in federal court or higher, and they win. See, the lower courts are called the inferior courts or nisi prius. They're not the original courts. The higher ones are. They want you to think the same shit I thought as a kid. Whether you go to the state or the county or the federal, it's all the same. Not all the same. They're different jurisdictions. The federal and higher are solidly, though there might be some corrupt ones there too, but generally not as bad. They have a job to use case law, Supreme Court opinions, and the Constitution to back and support you. The lower ones, not so much. A lot of them have all they're all either corporate or corporatized. Maybe you'll have a different experience than me. I'm just telling you what I've learned and been through. I'm not saying all of it is fact. This is my perspective and my experience. Do your own research. So if a cop says, "Oh, you're one of them sovereign citizens," play stupid. A what? Sovereign citizen. You know, one of those guys who watch these YouTube guys think they know everything. These armchair lawyers and whatever else. No, I don't know what that is. I've never heard that term before. Can you explain it to me? Does it have a legal status or anything? Something I can look up? Uh, uh, well, no. It's just people think they're above the law. Yeah, but is it a legal thing? Is it like? And if you're calling me that, I mean, one, I don't even know what that is, and two, that sounds like defamation of character, and sounds like something, you're trying to label me with something fictitious, something that's not real. If it doesn't have a federal code to it, does it have a state code to it at all? Uh, Look, I'm just gonna need you to get out of the car before I bust your window. Yeah, when you hit them with the right questioning, suddenly all their things fall apart. Yeah, I'm gonna need a commanding officer and backup out there. Got one of these belligerent sovereign citizens, one of these SCs, and then it repeats. They're not all bad. Literally, I know tons of police officers, law enforcement, all different levels, and they know what the real things are. Matter of fact, the one guy said, if anybody talks like me, they know that I know what I'm doing and leave that guy the fuck alone. Because I will sue, and I will sue everybody up the line. I will sue the secretary. I will sue everything, the judge, the commanding officer, everybody who even sees my name on the document. That's why they, 99% of the time now, leave me the hell alone. If you work for the U.S. corporation or any of the public offices, you are not immune. I'm just giving everybody a tool to balance the playing field a lot more than what it is. These are not threats, these are promises. If you overstep the law, you should be sued or removed from office, dealt with in the proper ways. That being said, if they ask you if you are one, now of course you're going to have some bad people out there doing the same thing, so that's why you can't win. But never admit to that. But if you're going to challenge them on it, ask them where is that code found? Under what jurisdiction? Where is that found in any dictionaries or federal code? No, they don't know because there isn't any, and there won't be. Damn near, if not ever, never. So, but do not ever give them a hard time. They have a belief system and they will hurt you due to their belief system. And then they will try to, you might mysteriously end up with a pew pew on you or something else that they can use to try to justify what they've done. There are dirty cops out there, but there's also some great ones. I know some personally, some that have done a lot of stuff for me, and other agents. But anyway, so that's an oxymoron. You can't be both. You can't be a king and a slave at the same time. It can only be one or the other. Either you're a free man on the land in America or you're a slave and property inside the U.S. corporation right here, right then, right now. It can be either one as you see and go fit. So, what are the other terms? So, a lot of people will hear about some of these other groups. People heard about like Anna von Rights and these American state nationals and whatever else. And there's no disrespect to anybody or their groups or whatever else, unless you're doing bad things, then you're a piece of shit and you're doing more damage than good. But do you have to join another nation to be a whatever? A national assembly of state citizens or whatever you want to call it, right? No. Your last name is all you need for your own nation. Is it nice to be able to glean information from some of these groups? Sure. But if they're charging you money, and in like one of these groups, I won't mention the name, you give your confidential paperwork, your filings, and guess where it sits? Right in someone's house in their cabinet right here. So if that's the case, why the fudge do I need to give you money or do anything to pay the leader at the top of your little shebang bang when I've got my own damn cabinet right here? It works just as good as yours. And if you want to legitimize yours even more, go and get an EIN from the government directly. Don't go through the state because that's stupid. It makes you a franchise and subject to. Go right to the government and get your EIN directly. Do your own thing. Everybody else is doing their own thing. You can do your own thing. And then you get an EIN and then you can do business through it like everybody else because that's all it is. Otherwise, everybody just wants you to join their shit. Now, yes, I do have a package on my site where I teach you how to make your own micronation. You can get an EIN for that, optional. With mine, it does come with a letter of recognition from me and the various other micronations and state, not federal states, other micronation states that have recognized me, and we then are our own group. We recognize each other. That provides legitimacy even more so. You can use that, or you can do your own thing. All right. Um, so whatever you want to call yourself, like for me, I formed Lovitica from my last name Lovett. I didn't want to use just Lovett. I changed it into the word Lovitica so that it's a nation in its own government, private, unincorporated. Well, I could call myself a Levitican, give myself my own ID, but that's for private use, not for public stuff. I've got stuff for public stuff as well, the James C. Lovett. So here's the thing. I'm not hiding my name. I'm not hiding any of that shit. Maybe if I was to start all over again, maybe I would, maybe not use my last name or whatever else. But it is what it is. Still yet, grown ass man, not hiding. You know. But if a pew pew is needed for something, pew pew it is. So when you create something brand new, it is authenticated. It is unregistered, like we talked about in the last video. But and in the private, once again, you can name yourself or use any title you want for a private person that you want. You want to be a National Assembly of Nationals, whatever. Yeah, cool. So I'm not knocking anybody who's using any of those titles. What I'm saying is, if you join one of those and that group gets a bad reputation, you will be on their list. So be careful about joining people's nations. Be careful about who you bring into your nation because you may get a bad rap and be watched. It's better to be independent. They can't watch us all in with each last name group and whatever else. It's too many. But they can issue a general warning on a group, especially if that group is doing bad things, operating as sovereign, yes. Once again, for law purposes, it's no such thing. So the reason why I use national of the United States, natives of the several states, non-resident, foreign national, state citizen, or whatever else is because all everywhere from the police department to the IRS to the government to whatever else, they all use one of these five words to describe people who are not their 14th Amendment citizens. These names, these words have been codified. They can be found by code. on the state level, federal level, municipal level, all over the board. They don't have to agree on those other terms because those are outside. If you're outside and you know to claim that you're outside, use one of those words. But if you don't know, then what are you going to use by instinct? And yes, they do pay people, psychological groups, to figure out which words to use because they know the average person is lazy and they're not going to check off the word other on an application and put Floridian or New Yorker. So what are you going to use? U.S. citizen. Though the states can do that, technically, somebody could file a lawsuit against the states for doing that. Legally, it's acceptable, but what is it's not what's that called? Obfuscation. Technically, that's obfuscation because you're denying the people the ability to check off that they are a national on the state or federal level. Now, obviously, since I mentioned that some time ago, the federal government has watched those videos and they have updated numerous forms to include the word national on there as they are supposed to. So, good job, government, Department of State, on that from we, the American people. Not all the forms, because it does take time and money to update them, so they don't move fast. Okay, but the snowball is rolling. The states on their hand, like, man, we don't really have to do that. We got the word other. We're cool. Yeah, but that's you could also sue for that if somebody really wanted to. Or if they try to process you or prosecute you for doing, let's say, right to travel, but they don't have a well-defined non-resident registration section, you sue them for it. You're denying me my rights under 8 U.S.C. 1503, denial of rights and privileges as a national. You're telling me I can't travel in my private conveyance on the public roadways that can be used for public and private individuals, persons from a different jurisdiction, and I've done and that, but also keep in mind this is if you've done everything right, like I've talked about in the videos. You cannot just throw a plate on there and put it on a car. Can't just do that. There's a whole process to it. Essentially, you have to legally export your car from out of their system and jurisdiction into your own or a different one, preferably legally and lawfully done correctly. Well, what do you mean export? Well, because right here in the United States of America, there's two different jurisdictions within the family. There's the Lovetts, and there's the Wilsons. But we're all family at the barbecue. Mm, We make orange juice and they make lemonade. Which you want to go as a Lovett over here to the Wilson? Okay, then throw on one of their shirts and go over there. You've exported yourself over there. That's essentially what you're doing between your public and private side, your U.S. citizen side and your national side, your registered home to your unregistered home, your taxability at work to your untaxability at work, all that across the board. So the government and law enforcement respect the names because you're speaking their language. Remember, there's the English language and then there's their English legalese language. We have Webster, Merriam and Webster's book. They have Black's Law book. Black's Law book used to be American, basically. And then they corporatized it and civilized it and tainted it into their commercial, maritime meanings. It morphed into that. Those are two different jurisdictions. So you've been operating in two different jurisdictions your entire life. You didn't know. Why do you think like certain things when a military person does them, the regular police can't do shit because the military outranks the police. In their paperwork, most cops don't know this. In the small writing of the foundation of that entity, their agreement with the state and all that is that they're inferior. General police officers are nothing more than public security officers. They're not the true law. They're private security. Now, the ones sanctioned by the government, like your marshals and whatever else, they're constitutional. Or at least they're supposed to be. Sheriffs are supposed to be too. A lot of them have corporatized, though. Now they have this, some of them have this corporate ass attitude. When the sheriffs were used to be the ones that you could, hey, I need a sheriff out here to help. Now that some of them are just as bad or worse than the police. And for the record, most of them don't get along either because sheriffs still outrank police officers. And police don't like that. And sheriffs don't like them in their juris in my diction shit. Oh yeah, there's lots of little things like that going on. You guys don't know on the normal basis. Like I said, the lives most of you guys live is different than mine. Mine's always been in this weird ass in between everything world. The pages in between the pages, in between the layers. Don't quite fit in over here. Don't quite fit in over there. My whole life as a kid, that's all it was. It's not, not white enough for the whites, not black enough for the blacks. Not smart enough for the super nerds and not dumb enough for the hood motherfuckers. So I made my own way. Now, terms, like I said, that they use, why do they have to accept the term national of the United States? Because the federal government made that into a code. You can call yourself whatever you want, but you bet your sweet ass if you deal with a police officer or a federal agent or a judge, you better switch up from national, state, American alliance of allegiance of citizens, states, whatever, to I'm a national of the United States and I'm proclaiming my rights under 8 U.S.C. 1401, 8 U.S.C. 20, 11, 8 U.S.C. 1101, 20A, 22B. You better get it right. 18 U.S.C. 112, internationally protected person. Now, you can't just scream these things if you've done something wrong. You can still claim your rights, but none of this is just going to get you out of trouble. You better have it written down. You better have it, your affidavit. You better have all your paperwork ready to go in the vehicle, at home, ready to deal with court, to take it into court. You better know what you're saying. And yeah, I'm going to give you one of the scariest things tricks that they use. The moment and you can do this at any point in time, waive your rights as a national, a state citizen, a foreign national, non-resident individual. The moment you waive your rights, you're done. How can you waive your rights? When the police officer says, "Do you understand me?" he's asking, "Do you stand under his authority?" You waived your rights. The moment you use any of their stuff, you've waived your rights. The moment you admit, when they ask you, "Is this your correct address? 555 West Blueberry Lane, Pensacola, Florida, 75062." That zip code, especially being the hook. Yeah, that's me. Or even just one of the things that happened to me. Yeah, nothing's changed. Gotcha. Now, some cops, though most of them don't know this, if they take your passport name, run it in their system as just the name, and then match it with who they believe, because the passport, book, and card don't have your address on there. Because America doesn't give a fuck. You don't care. It's a national ID when done correctly. But when they do that, and the police officer takes your name and, "Hey, are you over on so and so street?" And you say yes, You're that 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. You've waived all the rights, protections, and freedoms of the passport card. And once again, that's not going to get you out of criminal trouble. But statutory bullshit that you have done right, that they're trying to allege you've done, that will do it. If it doesn't, they're overstepping your rights and you can sue them for it. And if you're informing them of your rights, now that waives their state immunity. So you can sue them directly, public side, private side. So you have to know how to play the game. You have to be prepared for this. You don't have to be a master at it right now, but if you're going to jump into this, you should be watching the videos and getting fluent with this language until you are ready to actually live or do anything. You don't have to watch all the videos so that you can then eventually go to work and try to, do your W8BN. You don't have to do that. That's pretty straightforward. But if you're going to live this life, especially if you're going to take it out into the public roadways, and the public roadways are designed by law to be used by public or private individuals. The roads are not publicly owned by the police. They are monitored. They monitor them for the general public, which are 14th Amendment U.S. citizens. But they are also tasked with keeping private citizens safe as well. But the private citizens, when you're in that capacity, are their bosses. And the roads can be used by private individuals. They have no authority invested in them to bother private persons not committing crimes. And if there's no RAS, yes, Mr. Police Officer who's watching this, and a couple of the ladies, I know a whole lot about that. You have to have RAS, reasonable articulate suspicion of a crime. If you cannot articulate the crime that you believe is going on, and here's the thing, a private plate to a private entity so recorded with the DMV is not a crime. Speeding over a certain, was it 19 or 20 miles an hour is a crime. So I tell you guys, keep your speed down. Don't go doing stupid shit. You act like a kid and a moron, they're going to treat you like a kid and a moron. That's endangering public safety. They can get you for that. A private vehicle so labeled and made distinct by state law has to be made distinct. Do not use the state's logos. Do not use government logos. Use your own family crest if you're going to do this. And you do not have to do this. It's optional. So you're right in freedom. You don't have to do this to be private. I tell most people when they ask me about it, no, just leave your shit registered. Keep doing that. That's way easier. So the same for everybody. So you can use any terminology that you want, but understand that when it comes to dealing with them, the police are only going to understand that when they run that VIN, it better come back to the entity on the plates. And when you refer to yourself or they try to refer to you, you politely correct them. I'm a private citizen. You don't have to answer all their hundred thousands of questions. You have the right to not incriminate yourself. I'm not going to give you any ammo to use against me. And for the love of God, some of these people out here who watch these videos, oh, this guy's an armchair lawyer. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Not me, the people I'm using their troll shrill voice. I'm a lawyer. I'm a this or I'm a that. And I'm just saying, this guy doesn't know what he, oh shit. See, because I read the same books that the top lawyers do when it comes to knowing about your rights and what police can and cannot do. See where it says law and litigation, National Lawyers Guild? There's nothing illegal about getting their books and reading. Effects of prior court proceedings, investigation and evaluation of the case of police officers, what they can and cannot do, photographs. Did you know that they're not supposed to photograph you or take your fingerprints for certain reasons before an arrest? Employment and income tax records, all municipalities, all the goodies in here. Judges, what judges can and cannot do. Unconstitutional ordinances. Interviewing witnesses. But once again, it's up to you. You don't have to go through and buy all the books I have. That's why I make the videos and give you guys the juiciest tidbits or bits of tids. Eh. As always, guys, be non-belligerent, non-combatants. So now you know about the word. Now you know about the other words that are accepted and generally used in their world. I can't go to Greek and say, "Hey, yeah, uh, just so you know, I'm a fluvius." Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. It just came to my mind. So they're going to be like, "This guy's crazy." I think he's one of those Flubitians. What just happened there? They called me some modification of the word that I kind of use. It's kind of like that. Should I accept it? No, I never agreed or accepted you to call me that. I'm not your property. Now, as a U.S. citizen, and you got your driver's license and permit and plates and registration, all of them, you can't then be like, well, officer, you can't do this. I'm a national. When you have all their stuff, you're not. In that moment, you are in fact a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, and that's how you will fight your case if they did something wrong. See, you can't use words that they can't identify. They know what a private citizen is. They know what a foreign national is. From their perspective, legally, whether the cop knows it or not, their legal department will agree with me because a lot of these places know who I am. I didn't set out for that; it just kind of happened. Yeah, kind of got tricked into this role. Um, you have to use the words that they recognize. Private citizen. And in fact, we're foreign to them legally, so we're considered foreign nationals to them. Also considered non-residents. They'll try to trick you. They'll say, well, what state were you born in? If you're a foreign national. See, they think they're super smart right here. Because you'll say, well, Illinois. Ha! I got one of those stupid sovereign citizens. He admitted it. Well, see, there's Illinois State, Mr. Officer, and then there's State of Illinois. I wasn't born in a corporate fiction known as the state of Illinois because that's a corporation. I wasn't born in a corporation. I was born right here in the land known as Illinois State. I'm an Illinoisan. And I do believe your textbooks and everything like that say that you only have jurisdiction over U.S. citizens. And a U.S. citizen is not the same thing as a Illinoisan. An Illinoisan is a national. Does your computer say anything about nationals? Ah, well, that's just that back weird gobbledygook you guys come up with and your jibbity jive jam stuff. Um, Watching from some YouTube guy. Well, I would agree with you, except for the GPO style manual published by the government in section 5.23 actually says the opposite of what you're saying. Well, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to argue with it. I'm just going to bust your window and put these handcuffs on you. You can sort that out with the state. Yeah, but you're denying me of my rights right now. You just broke my property, trespass, and you've got a gun on you. So you're threatening me as an armed assailant, and I don't know you. So those are all federal offenses. And because I told you who and what I was doing, and you can't find anything criminal I've been doing because you had no RAS, that now means that you're subject and open to a lawsuit on your private and public side. Ah, well, I've got bonds. I'm under risk management. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to pay a little bit. So go ahead, sue me if you want. Yeah, well, that's even better because now you just gave me permission. So now I will sue you on your public and private side. And that goes for any agent of the government or municipality. I'm just trying to balance the playing field just a little bit. Because I do have friends and family who are officers out there and they need to know the truth too. But if somebody who is operating as a national is breaking the law or speeding or whatever else, they have the right to stop, detain you, arrest you if necessary. You're not above the law, but the cops are also, you're not above the law. You're supposed to be the epitome, the exemplar of the law. So, if you're going to go into this world, you guys who are watching need to know what it's like being in the private, being in the wild as a savage in the wilderness. Other things along these same lines, like I said, I've given you all the words that you need to, be aware of and how to deal with that. I think that's it. Just to recap, once again, the word sovereign and citizen came from the old founding documents. It was never codified as a term to be used for legal purpose or use. They literally meant the citizens are, in fact, sovereigns. And when they said citizens, they meant state citizens, not U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens are employees of the government, of the state. They are public trustees, officers, officials who have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and to protect us. They have a duty to serve us and to protect us. But everything that's kind of funny you don't see on the back of police cars anymore to serve and protect. You don't see the word America, not on one police car, one law enforcement car, not on the tickets they give you, any of the paperwork. Hmm. Kind of makes you wonder what jurisdiction they're really operating from.